The felon lashes out at Pope Leo XIV. Elon Musk's black eye, ketamine, not being able to use the bathroom. And Joni Ernst says, we're all just going to die. Let's look into that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel, to everybody who likes, watches, comments on the videos, promotes the channel in any way. Huge thank you. If you've donated money to the channel through the super thanks, buy me a coffee, Venmo, huge thank you. Okay, so Elon Musk appears to have a black eye. We'll look into that. He says it happened while roughhousing with his 5-year-old son. Uh, this feels highly unlikely to me. I think something else perhaps happened um, for entertainment purposes only, of course. Uh, Stephen Miller's wife was seen exiting with Elon Musk. Joni Ernst in a town hall, which was quite hostile, with very valid questions, um, said in response to cuts in Medicaid that illegals are receiving Medicaid money, which Medicaid is for health insurance. You don't actually receive money from Medicaid, so she's clearly confused. And then she said, well, we're all going to die. So is this going to be remembered as the we're all going to die Republican bill? And um, Pope Leo XIV has said that he will address the celebration in Chicago on June 14th, which is the same day as the felon's birthday and the military parade. And I had images that the felon's going to lash out at the Pope probably at any point in time. So I am recording this video early on Saturday, May 31st, and it will be posted later this morning. So just for time reference. Okay, let's start with the Joni Ernst, we're all going to die thing. This is very disturbing because one, it's a lie that undocumented people receive money from Medicaid. That's just a flat out lie. Um, in fact, they pay into it and don't receive the benefit at all. So one could argue that they strengthen Medicare and Social Security and receive no benefits whatsoever. So very disturbing lie. But the Republicans continue to tell these lies because, you know, we have a serious problem in the United States of half of the country is living in a post-literate world, and the other half of us can read. So it's a tough situation. So, but I do think tides will change, and I think they will change because of things like Joni Ernst saying we're all going to die. And when we get this bill, now I do think, like I said in a previous reading, the bill will get changed quite a bit before it passes both chambers, but there will be cuts. There absolutely will be cuts. I've always said that. But the question I want to ask is, will uh, will this help Democrats brand the Republican Party as the they don't care if we die party? Will this help brand something along those lines? Um, I think the slogan will actually be they don't care about you. Don't believe them. They don't care about you. Will be kind of the campaign slogan, is what I'm feeling. So we've always got that this bill would be the downfall for the Republicans. I don't know if I was ambiguous in my reading the other day, but the Democrats are going to win the House in 2026. So we'll read on that again as things progress, but I've always seen that. The Senate's a little dicey. I don't think they do, but we'll see. I do think they pick up seats though. Okay, so how's this going to help brand the Republicans? So we get the Page of Pentacles, things coming forward, in this case about our health as a society. what does it say that we're retrograding back to a time where we're okay with people dying from preventable illnesses? Now, I do know people still die of preventable illnesses today. I'm not naive, but things really improved after Obamacare got up and running, right? More people are insured than had been insured. Um, I think these numbers will start to change. We have the Eight of Cups in the environment around. This is people walking away, and particularly people walking away from Republicans or MAGA or the felon. Uh, we get the Knight of Swords in the upper right. We'll have to add some context to this, but this is swift action, taking advantage, uh, ready to jump into the fight. And I think that is the Democrats. I don't know that those are elected Democrats. I think those are Democrats and independents or people like you and me that are just politically aligned with the belief that everybody should have access to health care. I think that might actually be us and going to vote and electing Democrats that hopefully will start doing the right thing. We get the chariot card in the environment around. People are very concerned about the immigration laws, the Supreme Court ruling that happened yesterday, um, that basically is going to lead to more mass kidnappings without due process, which we call human trafficking. I think that's why the chariot card is there. Uh, and we get the Ace of Wands at the center of the reading. This is a good card and a good card for its position. So the Ace of Wands is about new leadership, fiery, passionate, new leadership. And I think that's going to come in the form of voters voting out Republicans and voting in the Democrats in 2026. The Republicans always Seven of Swords, thief, deception, deceit, mis and disinformation, trying to get away with things, trying to distract. I don't think it's going to work this time. I think people are actually starting to pay attention. Um, just a side story uh, today, as most of you, well, I don't know if most, but as some of you that watch the channel on a regular basis know, I'm on vacation and I'm in South Carolina and visiting an old college friend and some others. There's a group of us. We were going to get pizza at one of the places that we really like to get pizza at, and they had a sign on their door that it's their last day, that they're going to be open as a business. And then another friend texted me that lives in another town and uh, said that one of the chain restaurants in there called O'Charlie's, I don't know if you guys know what that is closing their franchise in that town. And I thought, what's the coincidence of that happening in like like it was in less than a span of an hour. So I do think we're going to start to see real world impact to these Doge cuts. And the impact is people just aren't spending money. And that affects, first, it's going to affect hospitality. That just makes sense. People aren't going to be eating out if they don't have to. Um, and, we start cutting our budget. However, what's the easiest thing for us to cut, right? Going out, entertainment, those are the things that go first. So um, I think people aren't going to buy this because they're going to see the consequences of the bills that they're passing. And it's not even like the bill will be in effect yet, but it's going to change businesses' behaviors. It's going to change people's spending habits. The taco trade, Trump always chickens out. Um, on the tariffs, people are still weary about how much things are going to cost. Speaking of weary, we get the Weary Warrior card and we get guardrails, the Nine of Wands. And as I said, this card will be very important. It's going to pop up in a lot of readings over the next several months because there's really a time to try to put guardrails into place to keep the damage limited from the craziness that the Republicans are doing. We get the Nine of Pentacles. This bill and people like Joni Ernst commenting about, it doesn't, people are all going to die, just like this callous um, retort is going to give the Democrats all the fodder that they need to be successful in the 2026 elections. And it's making people have sleepless nights and anxiety because those of us that, you know, if you're watching this channel, you're probably slightly empathic or at least have a great deal of empathy for people. It's hard to hear those things because those things are true. People are probably going to die that wouldn't have died if this bill does not pass. Now, I don't think the bill will be as extreme as the House version, but I do think it will be. There's going to be cuts. I've said that the whole way. So people are getting the message. They're going to change leadership and go with the Democrats in 2026 because of this bill and comments like Senator Ernst, uh, because it's giving them anxiety. It's making it hard for them to sleep. And people genuinely care about their fellow man. At least the majority of us do. I wouldn't go as far as to say everybody. Electing Democrats will put guardrails into place so that they can't do it. So that gives us this fiery new leadership, and it leaves people like you and I and others charging into battle, so to speak, to help kick out the Republicans in 2026. Now, that means we have to elect Democrats. We have to be honest with ourselves and not let the young people fall for this idea that we can elect an independent, because we cannot. Democrats have all the fodder that they need to run a very successful campaign because of the things that are going on, including the trafficking of human beings when it comes to immigration, the deceit and the deception when it comes to what's actually in these bills, what actually Elon Musk was doing with Doge, all of that stuff, which leads people to walk away from the situation and go with the Democrats. Underneath, it's inevitable that this is going to happen. It's going to create some unlikely partnerships. This concerns me a little bit. As I've spoken about in the past, I think some billionaires are going to start putting money behind Democrats, and that's going to make people leery. Just be aware of that. It's just money. And we get the Four of Wands, which is about the voters, the family, the people. So uh, expect that clip and others like it to be the spotlight of the Democrats' campaign as we go into the 2026 election, which really isn't that far off. We have the 2025 election, governor in Virginia, governor in New Jersey. I think uh, the Democrats win both of those races. We'll take a closer look at that, but when the time gets there. Okay, so um, let's jump to Pope Leo the 14th saying he's going to send a video message on June 14th to the celebration in Chicago. This is usually a big celebration. I think it's going to be a bigger one. And is this going to cause what do we need to know about the felon's reaction to this June 14th event that's not his parade? What do we need to know about the felon's reaction to this? Okay, when I first read the synopsis of what's going to happen, I could see uh, the felon getting very angry, and his skin actually has, when he doesn't have that orange makeup on, his skin is starting to look more and more yellow to me, which would be a sign of some liver problems or maybe just organ failure in general. And so he was red in the face, but like just his cheeks, and then his eyes looked almost like yellow. So like jaundice. I don't think jaundice is a word, but like jaundiced, whatever the appropriate tense or use of that word is. Um, what do we need to know? I said months ago that this new pope would be a thorn in his side, that he would tell the truth about the felon. I also think it's important that we as citizens tell the truth when people say things like illegals are getting Medicaid, that we say that's a lie. Don't mince words, just call it what it is. And try to get the word illegal out of our vocabulary. Is I don't know. In my estimation, it's very offensive to call somebody illegal, but um, undocumented, perhaps. Okay, what do we? He's very worried he's going to be overshadowed, that this parade's not going to be a success. The military said it's going to go forward. I haven't seen anything that changes that mind. Um, I do see it happening. I do see that there might be some discussion about trying to make the crowds look bigger because I don't think it's going to have great turnout. And I don't think the TV coverage of it will be very good at all, or the viewership, I should say. Okay. So he's consulting with his people, his circle of support around money. This is Putin, Musk, and the felon. They're wanting to send this message about his strength. And particularly, I think the pentacles here are really his health. They're wanting to portray him as strong and maybe slightly correctly thinks that having a military showing will portray him as strong, although only the most naivest of people will fall for that. So I don't think it'll be hugely successful. Lots of pentacles. Things are up in the air. There's a lot of juggling, trying to decide how to handle money, overseas interests, and other things with respect to the Pope here. They don't really know how to handle him yet. They don't know what exactly he is, how influential he'll be. He's still very early in his papacy. It's really hard to say, in particular, how people under the age of 40 will respond to the Pope. We get the King of Swords, logic and consistency. I think they're fearing that the Pope's message, in comparison to the messages coming out of the White House, are going to be logical. They're going to be consistent. They're going to be compassionate. They're going to be empathetic. And what's coming out of the White House and even the Republicans in Congress is anything but that. Uh, the felon can't even make a coherent sentence at all. He hasn't been able to for years, but or ever perhaps, but he really cannot make a coherent thought at this point in time. We get the Democrats at the center of the reading, the King of Cups. I think again, this is just more evidence that this is just going to turn people away. He's going to lash out at the Pope. I feel very strongly that that's going to happen. It'll probably happen over Truth Social. Um, it might be backhanded. I have such respect for the Catholics, but Pope Leo was a something like that. We get stability in the environment around the Four of Pentacles. That's all people want. And people are going to view the Pope as a stabling figure in the world because the world leadership of the United States is junk. So people in the US are looking for some steady leadership. Now, we might not all be Catholic, but, most of us understand that the Catholic Church has been around for as long as, um, you know, Christianity, essentially. So it's a it's a stabling force. I think people had great reverence for Pope Francis. People had great reverence for Pope John Paul II, for example. So I think people are going to look to the Pope for guidance, not for religious um, dogma or for spiritual matters, but just for guidance and things to create stability in their lives. We get the Queen of Cups, people pleading to the heavens, feeling empathetic towards their fellow man. I think this imagery really sums it up. People are going to listen to the Pope, not the felon. She doesn't look like she's listening to the felon, right? She looks like she's listening to something of a higher power. And it's going to plant seeds that things don't have to be the way that they are. And I think this is the starting of the beginning of the turning point that I've talked about um, starting in June and July, and then in particularly August, September into October, things really turn. People are going to start to really rethink what it means to be a family, what it means to be nurturing, what it means to have that motherly energy, and what it means for the planet. In this context, I don't think this is about Russia. It could be, but I don't think it is. So the Empress card. So the felon's trying to hodge some plans with the people, his circle of support around money, but it's not going to work. People are going to already are starting to turn towards the Democrats. They're a little bit mad that the Democrats aren't doing enough, but um, it is what's going on. And then people are going to long for this motherly type nurturing um, feeling, which I think the Pope's going to provide, as well as more compassion towards the environment and the planet itself. People are becoming more spiritual as we speak. They just are, because that's what happens in times that are hard. People look to things that can provide comfort. And I think people will turn to the Pope, not that they're going to convert to Catholicism or convert to Christianity or anything like that. They're just going to take it as another source of information on spiritual matters. I think this will help them get more closely aligned with Democrats. Meanwhile, the felon is going to be juggling too many things, trying to figure out how to handle the situation so that it's not damaging. And the truth is, I don't think he can. I think it's been written in the cards for quite a while. The whole parade was about making him look strong. It's not going to. It's going to make him look weak. People are going to long for consistent messaging where things don't change from day to day, where the facts remain the same when the environment hasn't changed. And I think that's like the biggest thing Democrats have going for them is the fact that there's such inconsistency, whether it's with tariffs or whether it's with the bill coming out of the House, or whether it's just with messaging at town halls. Things aren't consistent out of the MAGA Republicans. And that helps people, the seed's already been planted that people want stability with the Four of Pentacles. So I think you'll see just a slow shift towards people supporting the Democrats, the generic polling Republican versus Democrat. It'll probably be plus 12, plus 14 Democrat by the time the 2026 election comes around. That's what I feel. It'll be pretty heavily skewed. People want compassion, and we're all just living in this. We talked about this in the last reading. We're living in this hanged man energy of just this pause and suspension, almost feeling like our life is being put on hold because of the chaos that is coming out of the White House and out of the Senate and out of congressional Republicans and out of the judiciary to a smaller extent, the Supreme Court in particular. People want logic, they want consistency, they want to be able to gaze out at the world that they live in and enjoy it. And ultimately, this brings around a sense of justice where life balances itself out. This is just the way the world works. When the world gets unbalanced, it balances itself out. Now, sometimes it's really ugly. And I think this isn't going to be as ugly as some past events where life is balanced out, but I do think it's going to be hard. And I've always said that. And we get the Hierophant, the church, the courts, and the Pope, which I think is fitting here. And I think the Pope Leo's message leads people to walk away from the felon, the magician walking away from Elon Musk, and realizing that we as a society have everything we need to change what's going on. And things will be coming to the surface, especially about the abuse of power with the Emperor card. And people ultimately are in it for the next generation, making things better for the next generation. If that's not the purpose of life, then I guess I don't know what it is. Um, so that's, I think, so I think we'll see the lashing out of the Pope. I think that's inevitable. Okay, so what's up with Elon Musk's black eye? Okay, so I don't want to be too salacious on this, but uh, I had actually had this image 4 or 5 months ago. I don't think I get talked about it on the channel, but I had seen him with a black eye in the with the felon, and at the time, I thought, well, this is interesting, but I didn't um, read on it or put too much stock into it because I kind of thought it was metaphorical because he was taking a lot of beating in the press about the Doge cuts and he was already being hated by most of America. So I thought it was just a metaphorical representation, but apparently not. So what do we need to know about this black eye? I can tell you, let's see, for entertainment purposes only, this did not happen when he was playing with his son. Think, and I don't think it's as sinister as him having an affair with Stephen Miller's wife. Don't see that. Um, Although I think there's some inappropriateness there. I don't think it's extend. I don't like Stephen Miller didn't punch him in the face. I don't. That didn't happen. Um, it was also reported that he's been at one time did so much ketamine that he couldn't use the bathroom. What's going on here? What do we need to know about this black guy? Do we need to know about Elon Musk? Yeah, I see some sort of powdery substance. I think this, for entertainment purposes only, has to do with some drug use. Um, I don't know if he like fell into something or something along those lines, maybe. So we get the Hierophant, the church, the Pope, the courts, the government. It's we talked about the tick tock of his heart. I'm pretty sure I talked about that when I hear his heart, it's like it skips a beat. I think that makes him feel faint at times. Um, I think the reason why the Hierophant is here is because he really regrets taking this position, not because of the things he did. He has no empathy of that whatsoever, but because of how unpopular it's made him. So I think there's some anxiety leading up to this event today. Yeah, it's like he can't turn off his brain. Things are spinning. They're spinning way too fast. The cogs are just going. The Seven of Pentacles. The seed's been planted that people don't like me. He's got a very icky energy. I've talked about that before. It used to give me a headache. I've kind of gotten over that. Um, we get the next generation, the Six of Cups. He's acting like a child. Here, the child turns into a man in the unveiled part, but some sort of childish behavior or immature behavior. Maybe not childish is not the right word. Most children are better than that. We have some unlikely partnerships with the lovers card. So maybe this has to do with Stephen Miller's wife, like indirectly. The King of Swords is at the center of the reading. This is that strong man mentality, but really I'm weak. Uh, I think he sees himself, he tries to portray this strong man mentality, but really inside he's very weak. He doesn't really like himself. Um, I don't feel empathy for him per se, but that's not a very good place to be if you've ever been in that kind of energy. That's where he's at. The circles of support and celebrations are in the environment around, but he's not at the party anymore. He's leaving the party, so to speak. And even when he was part of the party, I don't think he ever felt part of the party. I think he always kind of had that hermity type energy, but without the ability to shed the lantern. We get the Four of Pentacles, something about his health being unstable here. And we get the Six of Swords. This was a close call in some extent. Like it could have been way worse. Like he could have fallen down a set of stairs or something like that. I think I think he was all hopped up on some sort of drug for entertainment purposes only. And it's like he fell and he tried to like brace himself with his hand, and then his hand hit his eye as he fell, like maybe into like a table or like a coffee table, something along those lines. We get the Knight of Pentacles messages coming forward about his health. I think we might find something out there. So again, he's very nervous about being involved and even around the felon at this point, just because he's like so insecure, right? The strong man that he portrays just is a lie. So he gets these anxiety attacks, I would think, something along those lines. Um, and then we get something coming forward in regards to his health. His health is not stable. Uh, it's not in a good place, and it's because of um, immature behaviors like drug use. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want to minimize people that suffer with addictions. So that's a real disease and people need help. So, um, but I think you can contribute it to some sort of drug use. It's like he can't turn off his brains. That's why it starts. It's like the party never stops, even though he's partying in squalor with the Three of Cups. If you see the outside of the unveiled, the lady's living in a torn down apartment or a tattered apartment, I know. But feels like she's living the best life. Same with the Lovers card. I think the Lovers card here is just about the unlikely partnerships of the way he's living his life, like people not realizing it. And I think the Six of Swords in the environment around was that this is actually a pretty close call. If he hadn't have been at least coherent enough to put his hand up to hit himself in the eye and had rather like had the corner of a table hit his eye, it could have been much worse. Underneath, I don't know why I wanted to pull this card, so I guess Knight of Cups. Yeah, things coming forward, emotional messages. Yeah, it's inevitable that we figure this out. Journalists are going to be looking into it, investigations, the people, the Four of Pentacles, or Four of Wands. I guess the cards could maybe slightly suggest has something to do with Stephen Miller's wife. I just don't feel that gutturally, but the truth will eventually come out. So the Sun card is there. So I think we'll eventually figure out what happened. Although I think most of us don't care, right? Most of us are just let's get him out and get him back to the private sector and let him deal with his people there. All right. Um, so I will be back from vacation on Monday the 2nd. Actually, I get back uh, on Sunday the 1st, but hopefully I'll have a reading from the normal spot on Monday. It's possible I don't get anything out until Tuesday, but thank you for everybody that's wished me well during vacation time. And we crossed 20,000 subscribers. It's crazy and huge. And um, I really like the community that we've built. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much. I'll be back with another video soon.